7 o'clock. Call the meeting to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a roll call. David Bova here. Eric Bosler. Here. Geraldine Diesel.
Here.
James Kirshner.
Here.
Martha Riesinger.
Here.
Richard Rudloff.
Here.
Terrence McDaniel.
Here.
All are present. I read the Board of Education norms at the last meeting. I will not go through that tonight, but it is available if you'd like to read through it. And we have the approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda of the September 21st, 2021 regular open session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Second was Martha. Next, we have public participation. I'm going to read the guidelines for public participation, and then we're going to discuss the time. Board members and administrators will listen to concerns and will respond when appropriate by mail or telephone at a later date. The public comment period will not exceed 15 minutes. No individual will be permitted to speak more than once during this period, and each speaker will be allotted no more than 5 minutes. Per policy BDDH-1, public participation at board meetings, the following guidelines and procedures will be followed. In order to speak during public participation, a public comment form must be filled out and submitted to the board president prior to the beginning of the meeting. The public comment period will not exceed 15 minutes. No individual will be permitted to speak more than once, and each speaker will be allotted no more than 5 minutes. I have 12 comment cards, so I think it would be appropriate to maybe extend the public comment period this evening, but we would need a motion to do so.
I'll make
Go
a
ahead.
motion that we extend the comment
To a maximum of,
time. 10 minutes?
I was thinking an hour.
Oh, I see, for the whole thing.
And then we should be able to catch them all.
Yes.
So you're making a motion to extend the public comment period to a maximum of 1 hour.
Yes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comment? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so public comment will be 1 hour. Each speaker will be allotted a maximum of 5 minutes. Dr. Fleeg, do you want to say anything?
No, I think all of the information the district has to present is later.
Okay. I just want to say when you step up, please adjust the microphone and speak into it so we can hear you. Please speak to the board, not to the crowd. Please be cordial and polite. Everyone here has the best interests of our kids at heart. For the sake of everyone here, please be as succinct as possible. This is a time for us to listen to you, okay? First is Brock Gibson. Mr. Bosler will have a timer.
All right, thank you. I wasn't nervous until I got here and saw Mr. McDaniels and remembered the leather couch and the paddle from elementary school. So I was a troublemaker then, and here I am, starting trouble. But so I wanted to talk about the mandate, of course, and I want to first thank you guys for letting us talk, and I think it's really important that we can, have this conversation with civility and with love to talk about issues that are affecting all of us and our kids. First of all, I'd like to make it really, really clear that I am not here to discuss my opinion of the validity or the efficacy of the mask. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. I'm not here to discuss coronavirus or any of its known or unknown risks. Those are irrelevant to what I see as a deeply rooted problem that we have with the recent measure to manage that risk. I also want to make it clear that I'm not against public schools having rules and guidelines in place that our students are required to follow. The dress code is a great example of that, and the dress code is in place, and it's imperative to the success of our kids. The dress code rules, however, and this is where I feel like that the disconnect is at, is the dress code rules and all the other rules that I've read in the handbook, because I took time to read the handbook and the rules. And there is, for me, a very clear line of when the mandates cross a line, and that is when it becomes debilitating to our children in any way. So the dress code is about not wearing things that are offensive on your shirt, those types of things. None of those things actually debilitate our kids in any way. And just for the sake of the conversation, when I talk about debilitating, I'm talking about just visual obstructions and potentially the ability for nonverbal communication. There's just some debilitating things that are there when you wear a mask. And I'm also not comparing that to the risk that is there if they're not wearing a mask, okay? So I'm not saying that risk is any more important or less important than the risk of them wearing the mask or not wearing the mask. I'm just making the statement that, for me, the line of where it's okay for the public school to actually put a mandate in place that is debilitating in any way is at that point that it does become debilitating. Then I believe that it should be at that point the parent's responsibility to make those choices. I do also understand that the school has put that guideline in place in the best interest of the children. I understand that also. And I'm not going to agree or disagree with the outcome of that mandate, right? That could very well be the right solution for the school to eliminate the possibility of these kids missing school or spreading that virus. What I really struggle with through all this is that we have a guideline now that's in place that is debilitating, and no matter the risk we're trying to avert, it's no longer the responsibility of local public schools to make that decision without each individual parent's approval of that. And the line that's been crossed is that the decision was made that it's okay to do that with our children, without our permission. And the only explanation in my mind is that it's because that the leadership that made that call doesn't believe that we can manage that risk on our own. And I think that if we knew the risk and we understood it the way that we do and I do, and because we're good people and we want good things for our community and we don't want to put other people at risk, we will make the decision when it's appropriate to mask our children or to send them to a doctor or to give them medicine, whatever things we have to do to prevent that possibility of them hurting somebody else. And we can make that call. You know, I feel very confident that, and just with the guidelines that are in place through the CDC, the guidelines that are in place through what you guys have published, those guidelines are wonderful and we appreciate them, and I appreciate the doctors and the nurses and the people that have been giving us these warnings and telling us these things. I think they're very valid, and I think that we need to listen to some of these things. I also think that we are in a position that we can make the choice after that. And the local public school, following the guidelines of the CDC, I think is fair. I think, however, we are crossing a line now once we are getting to the point of debilitating the kids. Now you can trust us to make that call. My kids are not sick, and I know that they're not sick. And when I send them to school, I know that they will not get somebody else sick. And if they got sick, I would make the decision to either put a mask on my kid if they were asymptomatic or not send them to school if they were, and do that in a way that made sense for this school and for their peers. And that is where, in my mind, that I feel like the leadership is really, is that the 5 minutes? I think that, so can I make one last really quick point? That leadership trickles down. And for me, this is a leadership move that is one that is based on distrust. I think that if you trusted us to make these decisions, we would make them in the best interest of the students, and we would mask our children when it's appropriate, but I feel like that should be our call.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Brock. Good to see you.
Next speaker, or the next comment card I have is Megan Daniels.
Hi, my name is Megan Daniels. I am mother to a first grader in this school district, as well as an advocate for all these children's health and well-beings. Not but a few weeks ago, a close relative of mine was infected with COVID-19, and he lost his battle. My boss, my mentor, is currently fighting this battle. I do know that COVID-19 is a deadly virus, more often than not when paired with comorbidities. However, this virus does not have a high transmission rate for, nor is it deadly for our children. What is deadly is the lack of oxygen that our children suffer from because of masking. Per the CDC, the upper bound limit for the risk of dying from COVID-19 is 0.03%. On the other hand, because of the current mask mandate, the risk of our children suffering from hypoxia, a compromised immune system, bacterial infection, negatively impacted social development, negatively impacted cognitive abilities and development, anxiety, fear, and depression is a certainty. Our children have been through enough. Our children have overcome obstacles over the past year and a half that they've never been exposed to. The idea that you would impose a mask mandate because of your fear of a virus, which has a survival rate of 99.7%, is a disgrace. Your mask mandate is child abuse. Per the Missouri Code 160263, quote, no school district, charter school, or publicly contracted private provider shall use any mechanical, physical, or prone restraint technique that, 1, obstructs views of the student's face, obstructs the student's respiratory airway, impairs the student's breathing, or their respiratory capacity, end quote. St. Genevieve County R2 School District's current mask mandate is in violation of these Missouri codes. Now, regarding the parents of children who are high risk, I encourage them also to stop masking their children. Masking is making our children's immune system sick. When you mask your child, you're compromising their immune system. The very machinery that you need to fight infections and keep your immune system in homeostasis and balance is lost the moment you mask your child. I encourage these parents to make sure their children are subject to plenty of sunshine, joy, and love, as well as vitamin D and C. These measures will increase your child's natural immune system. Social distancing and unwarranted fear of COVID-19 is depleting our children's natural immune system, which is imperatively needed to fend off viral infections or to help them overcome them should they be infected. And let's not forget, the last thing that these high-risk children need to be exposed to are germ-ridden masks. Regarding children who have been instructed to leave the school district and participate in a third-party virtual learning platform after submitting religious or medical exemptions, St. Genevieve County R2 School District is in direct violation of instruction laid out in the ARP ESSER 3 fund, through which the district has or will receive over $2.5 million. For those of us who are not familiar with this fund, the law was enacted this March in 2021 to aid states and local education agencies, which I will call LEAs, to help safely reopen and sustain the safe operation of schools and address the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the nation's students. In order to receive funding, schools must address several concerns and have a plan in place regarding each question. Number 8 reads as follows: students feel welcome at school. Describe any actions the LEA will take to ensure all students feel welcome at school. LEAs may wish to consider how it will support students needing to or wishing to wear masks in an environment where not all are required, or how accommodations can be made for students who struggle to wear a mask when masks are required. LEAs may also wish to consider how it will make re-entry to in-person instruction comfortable for students that are transitioning from distance instruction. National data indicate that some student groups experience feelings of marginalization or exclusion from school, and that they have increased challenges in returning to school. The LEA must provide any actions it intends to take to ensure that all students feel welcome as they return to school. St. Genevieve County R2 School District has not made our children feel welcome. Those of us who have submitted religious and medical exemptions on behalf of our children have been turned away from the school district with no intent to accommodate our children, besides exiling them to their homes, where they will be taught by a virtual instructor who is not in any way associated with the school district. It is reasonable to assume that since the school district has been awarded more than $2.5 million in order to facilitate the return of children to school, that they would allocate some of these funds to ensure that all our children are able to attend in-person learning. But back to why we're here. We the people, most of these people, we the people assert our right to freedom under the protection of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. We assert our God-given right to protect ourselves and our children from what is considered an involuntary assault on our bodies as God created and protected. Unmask our kids.
Thank you. Next comment card I have is Amanda Schwint.
Hello.
Hello.
In response to the implementation of the mask mandate, which was put into place on September 7th, I am confused. I thought that this is the St. Genevieve R2 Board of Education, not the St. Genevieve Public Health Department. However, it seems as if you've decided to go beyond the Department of Health recommendations and mandated a placement of medical device on our children. As stated by the FDA, the use of the mask has not been proven for antiviral protection. In fact, it states on the box that it does not prevent the spread of disease or infection. By placing this on our children, you are implying that what is considered a medical, you are applying what is considered a medical device. If you are going to act in this capacity, you are required to obtain informed consent. According to the FDA, informed consent means you need to provide the understanding of the nature of the procedure or device, understand the risk and benefits, offer reasonable alternatives, and understand the risk and benefits of these alternatives. It also states that informed consent cannot be obtained under coercion, meaning no undue punishment or reward. I have not seen, or am I able to find it on the district's website, anything that provides me with the benefits, risk, or side effects of a child wearing a mask for 5 to 6 or 7 hours. This is very hard. I'm not even going to read the rest of this. I'll email it to you, but I sent my 6-year-old daughter to school on Monday. For the first time, she's never worn a mask. And I had to send her into school wearing a mask. I'm not the only one who feels like this. It was very hard to put a mask on my 6-year-old child for the first time, just so she could go to school in person. And that is not fair. That is not fair for a 6-year-old. And it's not fair for me to have to make that decision. All we're asking for is to leave it to the parents to make the decision. You are not the health department. You're here to make education decisions for our children, not health. That is all.
Thank you. Next comment card I have is Gary D. Williams.
All right, first of all, I want to thank the Board of Education for encouraging me to be here tonight. Board meeting attendance is moved up on my priority list due to the recent decisions the administration and the board has implemented with these mask mandates, and for that I thank all of you. I want to open with Jeremiah 29:7 from the King James Version. And seek the peace of the city whither I have caused you to be carried away as captives, and pray unto the Lord for it. For in the peace thereof shall you have peace. I want to familiarize parents and the board with a term called loco parentis that was put in place by our forefathers and adopted from the English Commonwealth. This simply states that when I turn my child over to the school, their teachers assume parental responsibility and can make decisions for my child while in their care. I encourage everyone to kind of familiarize with themselves on this topic. I've been a volunteer in the community working with school-age kids for over a decade now. I also assume similar responsibilities, and I know that's difficult. I've been trusted to make decisions for children that are not my own, but vow to treat them as I would my own and respect their personal values. Never would have I ever even thought of acting in the way the district has allowed staff to act by segregating a child for their beliefs, or treated any of the children I have come into contact with over the past 10 years of service in condescending ways. I have been given accounts from parents of multiple situations of segregation, not allowing children into classrooms, and disrespectful comments to the youth that do not want to be suppressed. I encourage every parent to communicate with their children and document these issues thoroughly. What is being done in darkness will eventually come to light. These children are being pushed away and left behind because of their personal beliefs and moral values, which is a complete violation of their First Amendment rights as outlined in the founding documents of this great nation, and against the wishes of their parents due to an overreach of power granted to the administration under loco parentis. I'm here to state that the citizens of this community are recognizing that the self-righteous decisions the district has made are completely unconstitutional and in some cases unlawful, that the opinion of district families and faculty were completely ignored based on the survey conducted related to the sensitive subject of masking our children upon the reopening of school. The sleeping dragons of this community have been awakened, and many are prepared to do what they need to do based on our constitutional rights to override this decision or aid in instituting a more reasonable policy that support the beliefs of all children and families in the district. We have a dedicated and courageous citizen. We have had dedicated and courageous citizens throughout the county working tirelessly, petitioning and growing support to unmask the children of St. Genevieve County. In just 2 short weeks, we have gained over 600 signatures in an effort to override this decision to mask our children against their will. According to House Bill number 229, we would need 25% of the voter turnout from the last board election to sign a petition to begin recalling board members and trigger a recall election. Based on the last voter turnout of 1,330 voters for our school board elections in the spring of 2021, a petition to recall would need 333 signatures. Now, I don't have a doctorate in education, but if my math is correct, we're about halfway there. I'll close in stating that this is a movement to preserve personal freedoms and liberties granted by the forefathers of this nation, inspired by the writings in the Bible. It is the freedoms and liberties granted to us at birth that keep us unified. I encourage all citizens of the county and district to make the best decision for your families based on your own moral values and beliefs, while understanding that your position may not be the best for your neighbor, and that we will show respect for one another based on those personal beliefs. And if you don't mind, I would like to yield the remainder of my time to silence for all the young people who have suffered from mental disorders, turned to drug abuse, or thoughts and acts of suicide due to the social and psychological results of tyrannical lockdowns and masking. Julie and Paul, if you could focus on silence, please. This is for people who need it. Thank you.
The next comment card I have is Gina Bryant.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Can't believe I have to follow all that, so thank you. Thank you. I spoke my truths at the last meeting. You guys all know where I stand. I just wanted to say that the 3 counties surrounding us, Jefferson County, St. Francis County, and Perry County, have now all changed their quarantine procedures, which I applaud them. And that's what I was asking at the last meeting: change the quarantine procedures. Allow parents to let their children go to school with masks optional. Allow them to be essential. Allow them to be in the building as much as possible. If, with the Jefferson County mandate, with their changing of quarantine procedures, for 4% of the students and faculty being positive would force them to go back to standard quarantine procedures. As of students only students, that would be 73 positive cases, 73. At the last board meeting, we had 16 positive cases, and that was 0.87% of the student population in the school. So I request that we change the mask mandate, allow students to be essential, allow them to be in the building, so that way they can learn as much as they can. And what else? Oh, and then also the Jefferson County Jefferson County mandate also stated that positive cases are coming from home. Children are 24% likely to get COVID from home, and they're only 3% likely to get COVID from school. So we're not going to keep kids from their families, are we? We're going to make them wear masks at home? We can't do that. We have to trust parents and trust they're going to make the right decision. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. The next comment card I have is Bart Brown.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for letting us speak here. Thanks for extending the time. That was very gracious of you guys. I know you guys only had 15 minutes before. Probably never had a need for it to be any longer than that, but this time is a little special. Dr. What's your name? Bosner? Are you a pediatric doctor? Okay. So I'd like to know that you brought in a cardiologist to talk about whatever you're talking about. I'm sure you're going to talk about the mask thing. So I'd like to note that. Now, what makes you guys think that you know what's best for each individual child, mine and others? When you take away our choice as a parent and our children to put them in or not put them in a mask, I see this mask mandate not as the health for our children, but about a political statement. There's zero evidence that shows children are at a significant risk of catching or dying from the coronavirus. As a matter of fact, children who drive to school are at higher risk of dying on the way to school than of COVID. I recently took my teenager to a driving school called Brakes. They had a study, 50% of all teenage drivers will be involved in a car crash before graduating high school. I know that to be true, as both of my teenage drivers wrecked before they were out of high school. It is also the #1 killer of teens from 15 to 19. According to the CDC's own data, children 5 to 14 have a 0.2% chance of dying from COVID-19. To give you some comparison of all deaths of children, children have a 1.5% chance for dying suicide, a 0.7% chance of dying from homicide, a 0.6% chance of cardiovascular, 0.5% for drowning. Flu and pneumonia is a 0.3% chance, and suffocation is the same as COVID, a 0.2%. There's roughly 73 million children in the United States, of which 3,647 have been hospitalized due to COVID. And as of September 1st, only 400 have died. So, if you figure off of 73 million, that means that 0.0049% of children have been hospitalized and 0.0005 have died from COVID-19. Meanwhile, the flu from 2019 to 2020 season, which was only 7 months long, an estimated 434 children died and more than 52,000 were hospitalized. A step back to the 2018-2019 flu season where there was not a crossover for COVID. There was 480 deaths and 46,000 hospitalization, but you never mandated a mask for the flu. This is not about the health of our children, it's a political statement. If you were truly worried about their kids, why don't you have a driver's ed class? Being that that's the #1 killer of our kids. These mask mandates take away the freedom of choice for parents and students. I'd like to note all of you are voted into these positions on the board, and as a parent, I will not forget these unreasonable mask mandates. God gave us a face for a reason, and it wasn't to put a mask on. Thank you.
Thank you. The next comment card I have is Becky Long.
Hello again.
Hello.
Given the continued severity of COVID-19 in our community, I believe it is that the Board of Education should uphold the current mask mandate to ensure the safety of students, staff, parents, grandparents, and the community as a whole. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, as of September 9th, nearly 5.3 million children have tested positive for COVID-19 since the onset of the pandemic. Over 243,000 cases were added the first week of September, the second highest number of child cases in a week since the pandemic began. After declining in early summer, child cases have increased exponentially, with nearly 500,000 cases in the past 2 weeks. 4 days ago, the New York Times COVID risk tracker reported St. Genevieve County is at an extremely high risk level for unvaccinated people. Some of those unvaccinated people are my people. Those are elementary age children who are not able to get the vaccine at this time. The CDC has recommended universal indoor masking for all teachers, staff, students, and visitors to K-12 schools, regardless of their vaccination status. In an interview with a pediatric infectious disease physician at the Mayo Clinic Children's Center, the question was asked if kids really get sick from COVID-19, and her response is as follows. We do know that over 500 kids have died of COVID-19 in our country. We do know that there can be long-lasting effects from this infection that we're still trying to understand. We still don't know the impacts on developing organs, bodies, organ systems in kids, or whether there might be other long-term impacts that have not yet come to light as well. When you look at all of those things, it becomes important to do whatever we can to try and prevent kids from getting this infection. She also states because of the concerns that have been raised about whether there are negative effects of masking on children, there have also been numerous studies done, and these studies have unequivocally shown that there are no negative health effects on children from wearing a mask. One child in this community hospitalized or worse is too many. We have a moral obligation to protect those who cannot protect themselves. A public school is obligated to serve all children, and masking allows that to happen. With layered precautions in place, children who are high risk, along with every other student, can continue to receive a free and appropriate public education. As a parent, I am beyond thankful to all of you for the precautions that this school district has taken for the safety of my children. We're all figuring this out together as a community, and we learn new information daily and try to adapt as necessary. Politicizing this issue is asinine. While little lives are at stake is not the time for conspiracy theories or challenging proven scientific evidence. Who wins in this situation? While the smallest kids may not remember to never touch their masks, the amount of time that they do wear it is possibly preventing another child from getting sick or taking that illness home to other older, at-risk parents, grandparents, family members, community members. If we teach our children nothing else through this pandemic, I hope that we teach them to be compassionate and to think of others. I'm appalled by some of the behavior of adults who set the example for our youth. I'm also overwhelmed with emotion by the kindness and compassion of others. So, will we look back at this time in history and say, I did my part? Or will we look back and be disgusted at how many unnecessary lives were lost because of the need to make a political statement? I know where I stand, and I'm asking all of you to stand with me. Stand with the kids who attend our schools who can't make this decision for themselves. Stand with science. Thank you.
Thank you. Next comment card I have is Chris Cox.
Good evening.
Hello.
Thanks for having us tonight. So my name's Chris Cox. I'm the dad of 2 daughters that attend St. Genevieve schools, and I wanted to thank the board for adopting the mask policies as an effort to keep our children in school, as well as a means to keep our students, staff, and community safe during these uncertain times. There seems to be some misconceptions that folks in favor of masking want to wear masks, and I know speaking for myself, I don't enjoy it, but I do it to keep others safe. It's a notion that we don't enjoy this. I would prefer that they weren't required. Unfortunately, the spread of COVID that's continued through our community leads us to this spot. We know masks are effective and they prevent the spread of respiratory droplets, the #1 source of transmission for COVID-19. I know that arguments go to microscopic levels. However, most of the viral loads carried in respiratory droplets that get caught in a mask. So looking at COVID through a historical lens, we've lost more Americans to COVID-19 than we did to World War II. I believe that America was asked to sacrifice quite a bit during that point in time through rationing, war bonds, volunteering, stepping into jobs that people had never done before because our men went overseas to fight the war, including our military. So we saw unity in spirit to overcome a shared nemesis, and we haven't seen that since, unfortunately. We refer to the World War II generation as the greatest generation due to the fact that so many folks were willing to make sacrifices to keep us safe. However, we've lost 256,000 more people to a virus than we did as a result of the war. I'd be curious to see what they'd think of us now standing here. We're being asked to be slightly inconvenienced for the preservation of community and to unite against an unseen enemy to preserve our way of life, yet that minor sacrifice proves too great for some. Masks are safe and effective, as evidenced in numerous peer-reviewed studies in reputable medical journals in the United States and the world. We've lost friends, loved ones, and pillars of our community. Let's do everything we can to prevent more unnecessary loss. Please don't let the desire to avoid a small inconvenience stand in the way of a good public health policy that will keep our kids safe at school. So, and a couple things that got 32 cases in the county. I believe half of those are represented by members of the St. Genevieve School District. If you look per capita, that's a pretty large jump when half of them are among our school-age kids. So, if a mask saves a person, they're worth it. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. The next comment card I have is Gary Grass.
My name is Gary Grass. We have a second grader here at the school district. And again, I'd rather be on this side of the table than that side. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Our son is high risk. And if anybody could go through, and when he had surgery at a very young age. He's only in second grade now. If anybody could see a child on a ventilator, tubes running everywhere, medically paralyzed, can't move a muscle, to think that that could happen now just by getting sick just makes me sick, makes me worry about it. So, there's other kids here that, they have immunity issues. So there's that part. Our son's is his heart and his oxygen if he would get that sick. And as far as the death rate, that's one thing we try and even, we don't even want to talk about that. And it goes back to what I'd said at the last one. If we can all stick together for a little while longer for the common good of everyone and work together to prevent even getting sick, to me, that's well worth it. And I have to wear one of these all day, every day. Don't like it either, but that's my company's policy, so I'm sticking to it. And it's, again, it's to help everybody in the company keep from getting sick. But if the mask can keep kids from getting sick, each other getting sick, or even worse, death. If we can, like Mrs. Riesinger said at the last meeting, if we can keep one child from dying from this, yeah, the chances of it are slim, but if we can keep one child from dying from this, then I'm going to keep wearing my mask. And so will my child. Thank you.
Thank you. Next comment card I have is Sarah Schimmel.
Hello. So you've got a lot of speakers, so I'll try to keep this as quick as I can. My kids are in their 4th year here at this school district, and I've had nothing but just amazing positive reviews so far. I've got one kid in each building, and the teachers just seem to generally just care about these students. I mean, I've had more teacher communication at this school than any other district my kids have attended. Administration has always been amazing anytime there's been a concern. My concern tonight is the politics has entered this school district, and I mean, each side of it, mask, unmask, it's clearly here. You implemented this mandate, and so you didn't have to quarantine these kids that were asymptomatic. So the problem isn't the mask, the problem is the rubric. Change the rubric. Perryville changed their rubric. They had 800-something kids quarantined with like 60 positive cases. It's the rubric. These kids are asymptomatic. They don't need to be staying home. This mask should be the parent's choice. Either way, we can argue it, wear them, don't wear them. It's clearly, this should be the parent's choice. The health of these kids is the parent's choice. My second concern is a high school teacher that is pushing controversial topics on these students, making them research, take a stance on topics, leading them to topics such as gun control, abortion, topics that you and I would not discuss in any public forum. Please tell me politics have not entered this. You guys are publicly elected officials. Your responsibility is to serve your community. You need to get a valid assessment of what your community wants. And that's what needs to happen. You need to speak on behalf of your parents, on behalf of your community. You did a survey, which is great. I appreciate you getting the parents' input. We'd like to see the results of that survey. What did the parents ask for? Please, just let it be the parents' choice. Give us the responsibility over our children.
Thank you. Next comment card I have is Elena Schimmel.
Hello, my name is Elena Schimmel, and I'm a sophomore here at St. Genevieve High School. I am here to comment about taking down the mask mandate. You all do not know the long-term effects these facial coverings have on us, so as the elected politicians you are, you need to fulfill your duty and keep the students safe instead of being followers of all the other school districts. And keep us students safe, who should be your main priority. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last comment card I have is Philip Kwan.
I object. He turned in his comment card past the allotted time.
First of all, at every meeting, I accept cards up to the time of the meeting. I did it last meeting when you were here also. So, Philip Kwan.
Thank you, board members. Again, my name is Philip Kwan. I communicate the following just to capture my ability to speak intelligently on this topic, and in no way do the information that I provide reflects the opinions of the variety of organizations that I represent. Over the past 12 years, I've served as an infantry officer in the United States Marine Corps. I'm currently a major. In addition to that, I've been formally trained in chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear warfare. I am also trained in maritime emergency crisis response and humanitarian aid and disaster relief. I communicate that because I have been in a position on multiple times. I've been sent by my country overseas on 5 separate occasions in a position to make decisions that affect the lives of other individuals. Prior to me being a Marine, I was a biologist, and I conducted scientific research and scientific experimentation. I am going to address 2 specific topics, 1 masking and 2 constitutional rights. I have in my hand here a copy of 219 peer-reviewed studies conducted at the PhD or MD level or above that provide information that masking is effective, that asymptomatic spread and symptomatic spread are real things, and what specific control measures we can take to include masking and social distancing that prevent the spread of COVID-19. I'm not going to reiterate a lot of the points that I've made tonight nor rebut them. That evidence is contained here. The last topic that I would like to address are those individual rights. A lot of individuals have communicated that they feel that their individual rights, liberties, or freedoms have been infringed upon. It is incumbent upon myself, as an individual who has sworn an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States, that I should know what those rights, privileges, all those areas that are protected under the United States Constitution, what those things are. I've heard arguments under the 1st, 5th, and 14th Amendments of the Constitution of the United States. Under the First Amendment, I've heard those arguments stating religious exemptions and political ones. Masking is not a political statement. It is a public health statement. Under the religion aspect, again, as I mentioned, I've been sent overseas on 5 separate occasions. I've been to 40 countries. I've interacted with at least half as many different religions, everywhere from Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism. And under no religion that I've ever interacted with has masking ever been a religious issue. Under the 5th and 14th Amendments, individuals communicate that it is an infringement on their life, liberty, and under those amendments, pursuit of property. And a lot of individuals like to cling to that aspect of individual liberty, individual freedom, individual choice. Under the Federalist Papers, the founding... Yes, sir.
Mr. Kwan, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure we can hear you.
Absolutely.
In
Yes,
the
sir.
microphone. I can hear you fine.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. As I communicated, those individual liberties, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, communicated under the 5th and 14th Amendments of the United States. A lot of individuals feel that their individual liberties, by masking, have been infringed upon. But then we look at the obligations that the United States government has to its people. And I go to the opening statement, the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union, to establish justice, to ensure domestic tranquility, to provide for the common defense, to promote the general welfare. It is the obligation of myself, of those that uphold the Constitution of the United States, of our government, to protect as many people as we possibly can. As we look at those individual liberties, and we look to the original drafters of the Bill of Rights, James Madison, and I believe it was Federalist Paper 84, he communicated that the individual rights, the individual liberties of one American are limited when they begin to infringe upon the individual liberties of another individual. As captured here in my 219 different scientific studies, asymptomatic spread and symptomatic spread are real things. As such, an individual's ability to affect another one passively infringes potentially on the rights of that individual and therefore should be protected. We have a moral obligation to protect as many people as possible. I will do that. I have defended the Constitution again for 12 years of my life thus far. I continue to serve. And one of the things that I protect are the opinions of every individual in here. And I will continue to do that so long as my nation requires that of me. And I know that this board has not in any way conducted any action which infringe upon those individual rights. I know that at least one member of this board is intimately familiar with that, as members of their family have dedicated their entire life to the protection of this nation. And as thus, again, I thank you all very much for your time, and I thank you all very much for your moral courage. God bless America. Have a good evening.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate, we thank you all for your comment. I much appreciate it, and it was a time for us to listen. And thank you. I know it's heartfelt. Next on the agenda is the report of the superintendent.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The first item on my report, it's usually notes of appreciation, but this month, like some other months, there are not any in the board packet. Yes, I know. I just realized. Sorry about that. The second item I have is the enrollment count for the first day of school. I'm going to try to pull it up down here. I don't know if you can see that very well. Hang on just a second. Let me pull it up. The first thing that I have on here is the pre-K enrollment. In 2020, we had 58 preschool students at Bloomsdale and St. Genevieve Elementary. That number does include our early childhood special education students. This year, we are up by 14 students, so we have 22 students in the preschool at Bloomsdale Elementary, 23 at St. John Elementary, and then our early childhood special education program has 27. If we look at our K through 12 enrollment, our our numbers across the board in every grade level, I think except for one, and that was 4th grade, are up. So our enrollment this year is 1,807 students. And again, this was on the first day of school. So that would be up 190 students from the 2020-21 school year. So that's good to see that our students are back, and we have more students moving into our community. So does anyone have any information or any questions on that data? Okay. Next up, we have Nancy Toombs. Nancy is our Director of Technology, and Nancy will present the 2021 technology update.
Good evening.
In there.
We've been busy bees in the technology department this year, as every year. We have 5 goals that we look to follow, and we have a mission statement to provide technology to the students to create success at the St. Genevieve R2 School District. And we have 5 goals, which I really can't see because I'm too far away. So go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so the first goal is to maintain the infrastructure, because if you don't have a good infrastructure, you will not have good access to technology in the district. So we maintain our backbone. We have our internet bandwidth is through Big River Telephone and Charter. We have content filtering. We have 2 different content filters we maintain through SEPA Filter and GoGuardian. And our students and staff have to be in a safe environment. That's why we have to provide content filtering. We also maintain the door and card readers and video surveillance. And for our offsite backup system, we do backups which go out to other places in the country. We do standardize with the Chromebook for K-12. They are Lenovo, and our teachers also have a Lenovo laptop and a Chromebook. We have touchscreen Chromebooks K-12, and all of our aides and staff also have a Chromebook that they can use. We do have projection devices in every classroom, and wherever they need them, we provide some on wheels. We also maintain software. We help with the video broadcasting that our students do in the high school. We also help maintain the library media centers. And we also have a piece of software called IdentiKid that helps with identifying sex offenders as they come in. If anybody hits, then we help maintain that. We use PowerSchool to provide grading systems for our teachers and students. We use Destiny and Overdrive in the libraries. We are a Google school, which we use Google Apps for Education. We have educational streaming software through United Streaming and Safari Montage. And our goal 3 is communication tools. We do have the email G Suite. We do use Google Classroom. We have shared documents, spreadsheets, and presentations. Video throughout various outlets, and we also have Pear Deck, Nearpod, WeVideo, and other access to other tools. Our social media does come through our website with Aptigee. It also has a website, social media, and school app. And we do push notifications, a calling system, and a texting system. Again, I mentioned PowerSchool. We do have access for parents for that, and they can get in and see their kids' grades, their attendance, lunch balance, things like that. We are switching to a new online payment system. So it's kind of down right now, but we are switching to a new one. We do have e-collect system where we collect info from our parents annually so that our secretaries don't have to manually enter that every year anymore. We do maintain the announcements on the videos, video screens and the TVs throughout the schools. We do additional software with SNAP with our nursing staff, our accounting system. We have an inventory system where we track all of our devices. And we have something called Kaseya where we can monitor and fix Windows machines throughout the district. We have an online document storage system through K-12 Docs. We also have our frontline system, which is for absence management and time management. And then we also use Kid Account in the elementary here in town. Our fourth goal is professional development for our teachers. And we have a program here we use called EMITS, and it is an ISTE certified program through an international standards. The EMITS program is a 2-year program, and our teachers can earn college credit through that. And we will be starting a new focus group probably in October, and it goes through Missouri Baptist. Our department does have training that we attend. We attended Midwest Tech Talk this past summer, and we will be attending the MoreNet conference here in October. And we are also a member of the ISTE international standards. With our budget, the people of St. John County have been so kind to support us by maintaining that for us. We wouldn't have near what we have if we didn't have the people of St. John County supporting us. That also comes on the tails of having a great administration support. And our goal is to work to keep within our means and provide up-to-date and working systems for our students and our teachers. And we do seek grants as much as we can to help maintain that. And then as a teacher requests certain things, we've had some things this year that teachers wanted that we try and get for them if we can. And we also try and maintain and look to the future for what might be next. Does anybody have any questions?
Nancy, I should know this, but how often do we change out kids' computers?
We try to make 4 years with those.
4 years?
Yes, we've got a set getting ready to come off that we'll replace for next year.
All right. Anyone else?
Anybody else?
Busy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next item on my report is I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Taylor to talk about the Professional Development Day.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We had our latest Professional Development Day on September 3rd. Officer Clark conducted some ALICE training for our paraprofessionals, and then they followed their teacher schedules, paraprofessionals, teaching assistants, and aides. Mrs. Stephanie Gegg and Officer Clark conducted some training on student mental health issues and mandated reporter training. Mrs. Bailey-Otto conducted a social media guidelines session. Talked about some grading practices, and then kind of broke up according to the building level. One of the things I'm most excited about is we had map data that we were able to provide to our teachers so that they could look at that in depth in a collaborative setting and look at where our strengths are, where we're maintaining, and then where we need to focus on. And so at the end of that session, they put a document together and shared it with their building admin and me as well. I haven't had a chance to dig into that yet, but I'm looking forward to that. because they always set the bar really, really high for themselves. And they always have a different take on the data than I do, because they're in the trenches every day working with their curriculum. So I'm looking forward to that as well. They had some time to review NWEA data, and depending on grade level, elementary schools looked at really great reading, did some lesson planning, and then some IEP goals. Looked at some emergency procedure review, made sure their quick access app was downloaded on their phone so they have easy access to it, updated emergency buckets, and a variety of other things. We just closed the survey today at noon, so I'm looking forward to gathering that data, sharing it with the Professional Development Committee, and developing a plan for how to finish our professional development in March. In February, we're lucky enough to partner with 3 other school districts, Windsor, Herculaneum, and Jefferson R7, and we are going to participate in the River PD event. They're just getting information out to us now. It's going to be at the Windsor School District. We didn't get to participate. It's called off last year because of COVID. We didn't get to participate the year before, so this will be the second annual River PD event. They're calling for proposals now. Our teachers are hopefully signing up for sessions, and looking forward to collaborating with the schools around us to see what they're doing, and that they can see what we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have principal reports. So let me get this pulled up. And I believe Bloomsdale Elementary is first. Where is that? And we have a guest tonight presenting for Bloomsdale, Mr. Nathan Kingery.
Thank you, thank you.
He was out there for a little while.
So I am presenting on behalf of Mrs. Uspen, who couldn't be here. I apologize if I combine some first and third person as I'm using her notes.
Okay, let me hit this button. Okay, Mr. Kinger.
Alrighty. So on the next slide there, Bloomsdale started the year with a new excited PTO board and held a back-to-school bash on the first Friday evening. The event took place mostly outside with one of the activities in the gym. All the activities and snacks were free to every family. Lunas came and had a steady line the entire evening. The PTO served hot dogs, popcorn, chips, soda, water, and juice, and activities included a blow-up obstacle course in the gym, chalk painting on the parking lot, bubble blowing machine, hula hooping, drawing pictures, and lots of socializing among families. A great time was had by all who were present. And there on the bottom half of the slide, you'll see the new PTO board, Brittany Karen, Julie Cage, Kristen Lalamandir, and Lindsay Winkler. It's a great group of parents to lead the PTO, and they're very excited to have them this year. Bloomsdale has a new lending library right outside the front sidewalk in honor of Bethany Beckett. They've received many donations to help stock the library, and donations received from her memorial have all went to purchase books for the students. We purchased books for her library, the book vending machine, and books for our diversity and SEL program, Leader in Me, for the teachers to teach lessons through their reading. We want to thank everyone who donated in her honor. She was a wonderful person and is missed greatly. On the bottom half there, we had a meet and greet for all new students. Mrs. Rowland coordinated this with our Student Lighthouse team, and the PTO provided some St. Jan and Bloomsdale swag for the new students to sport their school spirit on Fridays. Positive office referrals here. We had an abundance of positive office referrals for things such as helping new students find their way around the building, cleaning up messes, helping each other in their classrooms, and overall taking care of each other, their classrooms, and our building. These are students who are showing great leadership skills. And the students that received these were Nate Ford, Easton Haynes, Carter Jokers, Cheyenne Jacobs, Toby Daniels, Emmy Dorenkamp, Charlotte Meese, Lily Brown, Caden Marler, and Ty Fears. So on this slide, it just got an assortment of pictures of the hallways and the classrooms. Things are back in full swing with learning and teaching and everyone doing a great job, just what you should be seeing at an elementary school. So I'll give you a minute to just kind of check those out. And then on the last slide here, Bloomsdale's having a monthly breakfast contest. The grade level with the highest percentage of students who eat breakfast gets an extra recess and snow cones. And on top of these are pictures from the August Winners celebration. And then at the bottom are pictures from second grade. They're doing their Fun Food Fridays. And here they're working on a geometry unit, incorporating food that students are sorting into those particular shape categories. And that is what's going on at Bloomsdale Elementary. Guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. So on the first slide here, there are just some back-to-school pictures at St. Genevieve Elementary. On the top left, we have the Welcome Back Dragons sign. We wanted to provide an inviting, exciting atmosphere for students when they returned. And then in the lobby, we had Welcome Back Dragons, and we have a classroom pictured there next to the sign. At the bottom left, we recently held our first PTO meeting of the year. It was very nice to be able to get families and parents back into the building. In the top, underneath the back to school at SGE, we have our preschool students checking out their pumpkin patch that they planted right outside their classroom. Underneath it, I believe that's a picture of me reading to a kindergarten class. I made it a goal to get in to read to every kindergarten class that first week of school and get to meet our new students. And at the bottom right, we have Miss Stacy Trollinger. She was the recipient of the MRTF grant for $500. She wrote a grant to provide take-home books for second grade students, and the district matched those funds. On the second slide, we had some more building happenings. Our third grade grandparents VIP day, I believe, was held the week of September 13th. We did one class each day of the week, Monday through Thursday, which allowed us to spread out in the cafeteria, and we were able to put one student at each table with their grandparents or VIPs. They shared donuts, they had juice, they had coffee, they did activities, and then the children took them on a tour of the building, and believe me, they checked out every nook and cranny of that building. On the right-hand side, we had our new student breakfast. Ms. Jessica Grimminger, our school guidance counselor, arranged for all of the new students in grades K were all new. So first and second grade, they met in one group, and 3 through 5 met in another group. They got to know each other, share where they were from, talk about some of the great things, people they had met, and it was just an opportunity for them to meet other new students. This slide is one of my favorites. We are really trying to bring back the school spirit on Fridays. So on the left-hand side, we've issued challenges to the students for every student in the building to wear some sort of green or white or something St. John Dragons. So there are some of our little dragons sharing their green and white spirit. And then on the right-hand side, September 15th was International Dot Day, and there's a book about making your mark and creating your own dot. And so we asked the students to do dot activities and dress in dots, just as sort of a celebratory act in the building. We had 4 positive office referrals: Eli Downing, Hazel Mills, Barrett Kreitler, and Charlie Weber. And I believe one more was submitted today, and we'll have to get her on the next month. And then finally, we wanted to end with our feature teacher super staff for the month of September. Mrs. Elena Feldmeyer was chosen as our feature teacher. Elena is an occupational therapist in our building. I believe she received 5 nominations from various staff members or colleagues. And in summary of just some of the nominations, she's always doing what every child needs. She continues to step up to advocate for all of her students and colleagues. She's patient and kind with our youngest dragons, gives suggestions about what is best for students, goes above and beyond to help her students, and pours her heart and soul into her job, and she's a great sounding board. And then our super staff was Miss Betty Barr. She is our daytime custodian. You wouldn't think Betty is a custodian by the way she interacts with the students and staff. She builds amazing bonds with the students. She brightens up our building with seasonal decor. She was quoted as being one heck of a multitasker. She assists and goes above and beyond. She uses every interaction as a teaching moment, and she loves and cares for everyone, and she's always smiling. And that's what's going on in St. Genevieve Elementary.
Good evening.
Hello.
Thanks again for the opportunity. We always appreciate the chance to come and brag on all the wonderful things that are taking place in the building with both our students and our teachers. What I've given you here is some of the things that we've been up to in the back to school weeks, as I like to call them. Over on the left-hand side, just like Nanya said, our students have really been interested and motivated in getting school spirit going again. So we've made a point to really push our Spirit Fridays as well. And those are some of the students there. If you can't tell, Charlotte on the far left is indeed dressed like a pickle. She gets a lot of mileage out of that suit. She gets a lot of laughs and a lot of smiles and keeps our days bright with the pickle suit, and has been one of our spirit winners already this year. At the top right, we've got some shots of some of our students who are participating in our new Fundamentals of Music class. It's an elective for students who may not necessarily be band students, but would like some introduction to music. And they do a little bit of guitar in there, they do a little bit of drumming in there, some digital recording, basics in music theory and music composition. And you can see in the picture on the far right, there is a bucket in front of that young lady. And on top of that bucket is an actual Remo brand drum head that is designed specifically to fit on buckets. And our local Tractor Supply Company donated all the buckets that we needed to complete the set. So I'd like to thank them publicly for that. And at the bottom right is a shot from our NJHS induction, which took place just last week. NJHS is going strong. We are at over 40 members. We had a great induction ceremony led primarily by the students, which is exactly the way we like it. So good job to NJHS. What's coming up for us is that Club Day is back. Today we had our first Club Day with tighter scheduling last year. We set that aside and asked them to meet before school, after school, during advisories when they could. Today we have rebuilt the club schedule and had our first session today. Starting next month, we'll go on the same rotation as high school. Also, Picture Day is coming up on Monday, and picture ordering is completely online this year through Wagner Portrait Group, and we have communicated that to the students, put it in their Google Classrooms. It's also in the announcements, Facebook, Twitter, and our homepage. So there is a link there and also a pre-ordering code that parents will need to use. It's completely online this year. On October 1st, we'll have the combined middle school and high school band at halftime of the high school varsity game. And on October 4th, homecoming week begins. And as part of that, we'll have our SGMS Spirit Assembly on the 8th. That'll be Friday afternoon at the end of the day. And then October 12th, our 8th graders will go to the Perryville Area Career and Technology Center as part of Career Week. And I just want to take my hat off to Mr. Draper, who does an excellent job of arranging those activities for Career Week. And I know some of you are involved as guest speakers. Some of you may be involved when we go do site visits. So thank you for your participation, and also thank you to Mr. Draper for the work that he puts into that. We've had quite a few positive office referrals, and as you know, I always like to name them individually. And so this month we had Nick Gross, Olivia Kirchner, Landon Jones. Josh St. Clair is the young man on the left in the big picture. He was our first of the year, and therefore the first to get his picture taken at the new "This Dragon is on Fire" backdrop that Mrs. Huffman put together for us. So congratulations to Josh, and thanks to Mrs. Huffman for that. We also had Gabby Tennell, Jersey Quinn, Brianna Foff, Mason Trollinger, Jacob Sulzer, Drew Roth, who had 2 already, Hunter Garrett, Paul Taylor, Kaylin Hallen, Elijah Whitworth, and Wyatt. And it really was quite a great variety of reasons that students were recognized this month. Some of them for helping other students out, for showing them the ropes if they were buddying up with new kids. One just volunteered his own time to help clean up the football field in the bleachers and behind the concession stand. Wide variety of things, and just really great examples of what we want to see from our students. So hats off to those guys as well. Our September spotlight shines on Mrs. Rachel Hain, who does a great job teaching science for us. She received multiple nominations this month, and her fellow teachers spoke of her high level of support for others, also her determination and work ethic, and the exceptional job she did prepping and facilitating the Dragon Time overhaul, which leads perfectly into the next slide. You'll remember in May, one of the last things that I talked to you about was our intention to overhaul Dragon Time, and at that time, Lead Time is what we were calling it. But we wanted it to have a little more purpose. We wanted it to fit more with our building goals, more with our district motto. And so what we've done is not a reinvention, but a restructuring. And we're offering to our students special interest groups that fall under each of the three categories in our school motto: family, tradition, and excellence. In family, for example, you have things like walk and talk, gym games, board games, things that encourage family time, interaction, communication. In tradition, things like school decor, and the loud crowd, the pep guys, and community service. And in excellence, speech and debate, money management, time management. In all, there are 9 choices per pillar, and students get to choose where they end up. In fact, they get 2 5-week placements per pillar. So we're rotating those guys after about 5 sessions so that they can have exposure to lots of different special interest groups. And some of the pictures that we see here are from just the last few weeks. Things like the school decor group at the top left, robotics at the top right. The bottom left is a pair of shots taken at our babysitting group. And this young man did an outstanding job demonstrating not only how to burp a baby, but how to change a diaper. And it was captivating for a lot of reasons. And I'm just amazed by their enthusiasm with projects like that are a little outside the box, but also the teachers who are willing to present those activities and those opportunities to them. Bottom center is a young man prepping a paint surface on the face of the steps because we're going to do a little reworking of those. We have lettering on some of those, and it's time for those to be updated and replaced. And then at the bottom right is Mr. Mueller teaching the kids a game that they can play with their families. So far, it's been a great success, and that is totally headed up by Mrs. Huffman, but she has lots of great assistants, Mrs. Rachel Hain being one of those, but other teachers as well. And I just want to compliment them on the great work that they've done so far. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, guys. Dr. Mercer, I have to say the babysitting tips, I've got a 9-month-old at home, so I might need to come up and take some notes on what you guys are teaching up there. Well, the high school is back, and it was really awesome to be able to spend some time getting into classrooms, especially those first couple of days of school. And so we really took an opportunity, and so some of the pictures that you see up here are pictures from our first day back. You can see actually in Alyssa Schwint's classroom, she wrote inspirational messages on each one of her lab tables in the classroom, and I thought that was really neat. So I got up there, took a few pictures. The kids were just excited, they were motivated, they were just happy to be back in the building. On the left-hand side, Denise Bader and her accounting kids got outside and actually used some sidewalk chalk and had an opportunity to be able to teach some accounting processes and getting in and doing some calculations outside. It was neat to see them do things a little differently. She was super excited and trying to figure out a location and a place that she could do this and be able to get out with her students, and they really had a blast. I know Mrs. Jury got an opportunity to get out there and spend some time with those students, so we want to thank Mrs. Bader for that. But on the far right, Mr. Diamond. As you can see, he's playing with fire over here. Actually, I got into the first, and this was actually on day 1, the very first day of class, and I had an opportunity to get into his classroom, and I actually showed up, I think, in 6th hour, and he said, hey, come back 7th hour, I got something cool going on. So I showed back up 7th hour, and his lead-in with his students was, I'm not very good with icebreakers, so let's do a little trust activity. And so he gave the students an opportunity to basically light his hands on fire. And so I thought that was a great opportunity for him to get to know his kids, but also for him to be able to set the tone for them on day one. So we really thank our teachers and our students for being back in the building and just the general level of excitement that they had to show to start the school year. So that leads us into freshman orientation, which actually tracks back a little bit prior to the school year beginning. Dr. Mercer alluded to Mr. Draper and the great work that he does at the middle school. Himself and Mrs. Staffen worked extremely hard to get things ready to go for our freshman orientation and our back to school, to get things kicked off and get our freshmen into the building and get them excited about being here. Mr. Bova actually came up and had an opportunity to take a look at our hand wall that we have going up down outside of our industrial arts classrooms. We actually carved out a couple of spaces down there. Mr. Bova, you'll have to get down there and check it out. It's starting to formulate and the classes are coming through, and we've got some of the other handprints that are there. So we're really excited about that. We're very excited for our kids to be able to have just a print that they have, and they get to basically make their mark on the high school while they're here. So it's really neat. Some of the student artwork that's come out of that has just been amazing. Our students blow me away just with their artistic abilities. I have 0 ounce of artistic ability in my body, and to see what our students have the ability to be able to do, I just have a huge appreciation for them. And Mrs. Bowman giving up some of her art time with her students to go down and actually create those spaces and make them lasting and a great impression for our students. I'm just super thankful for that. I do have a little video that I want to share with you guys from freshman orientation. Brenna Wiener put this video together, and I think that it's fantastic. It showcases her style. She's been amazing to start the school year. She's helped me on a couple of different projects, and I look forward to continuing an opportunity to get to work with her. But she did a fantastic job of putting this video together. So with that said, oops, maybe not. Okay, other big highlights that we have going on at the high school right now, just a lot of congratulations and a lot of super outstanding things that we've seen to start the school year. Our Rotary Student of the Month was Kaylee Forehand this month, and she chose, of course, Mr. Diamond. He's kind of stealing the show here. Mr. Diamond to go with her down to the Rotary. They actually went for their luncheon today. Yep. So they got an opportunity to go today. Abby Moore was our Elk Student of the Month this month. We have Lainey Amnitz and Brenna Wiener were both the RILA students that were sent by the Rotary Rotarians. And then you can barely see it, and I know it's super small up there, but we actually received a plaque today from the Rotarians. And on that plaque is an opportunity for us to be able to showcase and highlight each one of our monthly students. We're going to hang that up actually in the senior T, and it's got 4 years worth of information on there. It's got last year's winners, and then they're just going to continue to update that for us year in and year out, so that way we can highlight those students that are recognized by the Rotarians as the Rotary Student of the Month. So we're super excited about that. We're excited to get that hung up in the high school and that to become part of our building. We also have all-district choir that was selected. We just found this out yesterday. We had Miss Adams and Mr. Hogan-Miller were both selected to the all-district choir. That's a huge accomplishment. Those district schools come together, and a select few students get chosen for that and then get an opportunity to participate as a district choir later on down the road. So we're super excited about that. And then over on the we have our positive office referrals for the high school. We have several, as you can see. I challenged my staff this year to really recognize and accentuate the positive things that are going on with our students. I've in turn challenged our students to do the same thing, and I'll speak more about our Teacher of the Month process and how we're going to do that in the high school. It's going to look a little different, but basically we're giving students a voice in that process. So I'll speak a little bit more about that next month. But I challenged our teachers. I said, here's the thing. If the kids are going to say good things about you, you better start saying good things about our kids. And so they've really taken off and run with this. In the past, we've got these to trickle in, and as you can see, we have a very nice list to start the school year. So we're very excited about that. Our positive office referrals to start the year are Lieutenant Carter, Elena Chandler, and I do have to say, Elena was in my office, and we do two things with these positive office referrals. We bring them in, Mrs. Jury and myself, we call the parent, we get the parent on the phone, we put them on speakerphone with the kid sitting in the office, and we let the parent know what the positive office referral is. And the response that I got from Elena when she was sitting in her chair and she's just pumping her arms back and forth, she was super excited. It was just a really, really neat opportunity and a really neat moment. And so at that point in time, I knew that we were doing the right thing to recognize our students. And then on top of that, we also give them an ice cream sandwich as they're leaving the office. So a little treat as well. We've had no students turn us down on the ice cream sandwich yet. So Elena Chandler, Caden Fly has been recognized twice, Grace Geck, Hayden Heberly, William Hogan-Miller, Ona Lytle, Gunnar Miller, Augustus Sheeroff, Dakota St. Clair, Will Vaughn, Nolan Walls, Kristen Witu, and Keegan Smith we actually recognized today. So a huge list. We're super excited about being able to recognize these students at the high school. And then down at the bottom right, Maya Watts. She actually received a special recognition from an official at a volleyball game earlier this school year. And the official had nothing but great things to say about our libero and the way that she was hustling for balls, and actually wrote that into Misha. So that was a really neat opportunity, and we recognize Maya for that as well. Homecoming 2021, as you guys can see, and as the communications have come out, we do have a homecoming court this year. They're pretty small, so I'm not going to go through and try to recognize everybody in there, but we're super excited about our homecoming festivities and being able to kick that off. Our music genres this year is the overall theme, and the freshman class are going to take on jazz, the sophomores are going to be 80s rock, the juniors have disco, and the seniors have country. We're planning on having a parade, and the students are going to be working on floats and float building. If you actually walk into our hallways right now, Student Council this past weekend spent a ton of time getting in and decorating halls. There's a ton of green and white, so if you guys have some time, I definitely encourage you guys to get out, take a look at the hallways, take a look at the green and white, the balloons, just the spirit that they poured into it, some of the floor painting, and just some amazing things that our Student Council has done to prep the school for homecoming. They did that in anticipation of float building. They didn't want to take away from float building, but last year we went to decorating halls because of COVID. We didn't do the floats, and because of that, the halls were so amazing last year, Student Council asked if they could do it again, and I'm not going to turn them down for decorating our halls. So it looks absolutely amazing out there. Our theme days for this year: Come As You Are Day on Monday, Tuesday is Twin Group Day, Wednesday is the Class Theme Day, Thursday is Neon Day, and Friday is our traditional Green and White Day. I do have to say, Dr. Mercer, your middle school kids have looked amazing in green and white, by the way. I've come in and I've taken a look at them at lunchtime, and I've been blown away by the amount of green and white, so keep up the good work. Anybody have questions on homecoming? Okay. We started a gaming club in the high school. Once again, Mr. Diamond is at it again. Mr. Diamond has worked really, really hard with last year with Mr. Haney and myself to begin the process of getting the gaming club in place, and now it is official. They actually started last week on Tuesday. They met today right after school again. It's been really neat to see a lot of our students find a place, and this has given some of our students a place. They get in there, they get an opportunity to be able to interact and engage with each other. They're playing video games, they're playing card games, they're playing board games, and it just gives them a great space to be able to interact and have some fun with each other, and kind of find a place within the high school for some of our students that sometimes struggle to be able to find a place. And so that piece of it has been really neat. Mr. Diamond has been amazing in taking off and running the ground rules, and everything that he's laid out for those kids has just been phenomenal. It's been very, very impressive to see him just take off and run with the gaming club. And then finally, I just have some pictures for you guys. The spirit at the high school has just been amazing. We had an opportunity to have a running of the hall the first several days of Spirit Days. Just watching our kids interact and engage just brings a huge smile to my face. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to see our students back in the building, engaged, and really just having a lot of fun. The spirit is high. Our kids are happy to be here, and I'm just thankful that I get to be a part of it. So I thank you guys.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Okay. Sorry, my voice is. I was looking through some material today, and it's good news, and I think we should share it on niche, how the ranking of our school is. And this year, out of 460 schools, St. Gen is ranked 16th. Out of the same 460 schools, we are ranked number 5 as safest school districts in Missouri.
And that's on niche.com?
Yeah.
Which ranks schools every year?
Yes. And we are ranked number 8 as best places to teach in Missouri. We're ranked number 8 as best teachers in Missouri. Academics, we are ranked as A-, teachers A+, health and safety A+. So I think it's good news, and it's a good time to share it with you guys.
Thanks to all of you. Thanks.
And then the last thing in my report, in your board packet on board docs here, you have safety reports from all 4 buildings on earthquake, fire, and emergency exit drills and tornado severe storm drills that we have conducted. And that's the end of my report.
Any questions for Dr. Fleet? All right, next on the agenda is unfinished business. The first item there is the instructional program presentation, kindergarten. We are back to where we started a few years ago.
We are back, yes. Let's see. Sorry, I'm pressing the wrong computer. I have too many. So we're starting the instructional program presentations, and we're kicking off with kindergarten. You know, we've not done those for a year. So our kindergarten team, which consists of 9 teachers, Mrs. Anna Brown, St. Gen Elementary, Mrs. Jennifer DeRouche, St. Genevieve Elementary, Ms. Ashley Gettinger, Bloomsdale Elementary, Mrs. Katie Gettinger, Bloomsdale Elementary, Mrs. Stephanie Herzog, St. Genevieve Elementary, Mrs. Marcia Nelson, Bloomsdale Elementary, Mrs. Letitia Mercer, St. Genevieve Elementary, Mrs. Rachel Wilson, St. Genevieve Elementary, and Mrs. Renee Yamnitz, St. Genevieve Elementary. They have put together a video presentation for you. We were having problems with the music a minute ago. There it is. So I'll just flip through the slides for you so you can see what's happening in kindergarten. And that's the end of the presentation. So that's kind of what the year looks like in kindergarten. It's lots of fun.
It's a lot.
Next month, we will have first grade.
And I know we added some kindergarten teachers this year. Can you remind me how many?
We hired Anna Brown to fill an opening, but we added Jennifer DeRouche.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the emergency operations plan.
Well, this definitely isn't going to be as glamorous as the kindergarten video. But while not glamorous, the emergency operations plan is vitally important. 3 years ago now, I worked closely with Officer Christy Clark, our school resource officer, Mrs. Stephanie Gegg, our school social worker, Mrs. Gina Lytle, our nursing coordinator, as well as building administration, to do a complete overhaul of the emergency operations plan. We do not share that publicly because there is some information in there that we don't want getting out and possibly in the hands of somebody who shouldn't have it. But the only updates I had to go in and adjust this year were enrollment numbers, which are on page 9, and then we have identified primaries, secondaries, and tertiary contacts, depending on, if the primary can make it to their location and handle their task. If not, the secondary steps in. I updated all that information as well with Dr. Boyd moving up to building principal and Mrs. Drury stepping in as the assistant principal at the high school. Those were really the only updates that I've made. I do have some good news this year. Officer Christy Clark has been working with our local first responders, our local emergency personnel, to put together a meeting where we can sit down and talk about this information. They can get on campus and walk around the halls and get their eyes on it and perhaps give us some insight into what we need to look at in our emergency operations plan and perhaps adjust. So that's on September 30th. With those individuals, they'll be on campus to meet with us, and we'll go through that process. So I ask that you approve the emergency operations plan as presented.
And this was given to us last Thursday or Friday, I can't remember, but we've all had a chance to look over it. Thank you for your work on it.
I'll make a motion to approve the update to the St. Genevieve County School District Emergency Operations Plan for the 2021-22 school year.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have 2021-2022 bus routes.
Yes, Pollard Bus has provided us with the maps for the bus routes, and I have them here in a binder, and I will pass them down to you. We have 31 bus routes. That does include our bus that goes to the Career Center in Perryville, our special education route, and our early childhood special education route. We have 2 of those. There were 5 route changes. Route 5 increased mileage by 8. Route 17 increased by 15 miles. Route 30 increased by 44 miles. The AM early childhood special education route increased by 44 miles, and the PM early childhood special education route increased by 16 miles. Our buses daily to and from school travel about 2,200 miles. So we cover a very large geographic area with our buses. So these are the routes that Pollard Bus has presented to us, and I ask that you approve those tonight.
Dr. Fleet, when do we negotiate with our next contract with the bus?
This is our last year of a 5-year contract.
Okay, this is the last year of the 5 years.
Yes, so it will be this year.
We'll prove it when?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We haven't started talking about it yet. Mr. McDaniel?
Yes, ma'am. I might add that we're supposed to be reimbursed. What percentage? Or 70%?
75%.
75%
75,
reimbursed transportation for our students.
Yes,
It's down to less than 20% now?
yes.
So that means we, the district, has to shell out over $1 million per year to transport our kids that the state legislature should be giving to us. That's money that we can be spending on classrooms, materials, classrooms, employees, buildings, the whole bit. So that's an extra $1 million, over $1 million that we have to shell out. So make that point, okay?
I'll move to approve the bus routes for the 2021-22 school year as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is discussion with medical professional. Dr. Matthew Bosner, St. John County Memorial Hospital Chief of Staff and St. John County Health Board member.
Thank you very much for inviting me to share a few words and comments on how the medical community is approaching the COVID situation. And I wanted to do it in two parts. One is to present up-to-date data for you, which is as of 5 o'clock tonight from the health department, and also to share some comments on masking, hand washing, and I'm not going to discuss vaccination. I'll talk about those comments because it has to do with direct protection. So just from current data, as of today, we have 2,571 confirmed cases of COVID in the county, which represents 14.2% of the county. That's total cases. Just to show you the extent of the current problem with the current variants, in August, we had 258 cases. In September so far, in the first 20 days of September, we have 155 cases. So that's a huge increase in the last couple months. The other big change, as I wanted to mention, is that the change in the demographics of the cases, and I think that's relevant to the school district. In our first wave of COVID, most of the infected individuals and the sick individuals who came into the hospital were primarily middle-aged and elderly. That was kind of the first group. Now, since the current epidemic is hitting us, it's shifted significantly down in age. Our data that we've collected at the hospital are 316 positive cases since May. The peak is between age 30 and 50. 63 out of the 316 cases were individuals under the age of 18. So that's about 22%. And that actually correlates with the rest of the data in Missouri, which shows that individuals under the age of 18, we have about a 20% prevalence of a COVID positivity. And that's significantly different than the earlier surge that we had last year. One thing you have to remember about statistics is statistics generally underestimate the commonality of all these diseases that you're measuring in the community because you can only look at who's had a test, right? If a family has a positive or two positive members and there's 5 people in the family and the mom or the dad say, well, my 2 kids are positive, I'm not going to bother getting the other 3 tested, but we're all going to quarantine. You don't know if the other 3 were positive or not. Now, they'll enter into the data as being quarantined or being possible or probable cases, but the defined cases are only the people that have been tested. So data has a tendency to come back late. So, for example, as Mr. Basler knows, is that the death rate here in our county, we've had 26 confirmed deaths out of all these cases, which is about 1.2%. Now, some of these deaths reported come in late because these are recorded from where the area of origin is. So if someone dies in St. Louis, but they're a St. Genevieve County, that data will show up in his desk, but he might not get data. We just had 2 cases reported from January or February. So you might not know the total death rate. So what we have reported is minimums. I mean, if anything, it's higher than that. So the death rate is relatively high for a severe viral disease, 1.2%. You have to put this in context with other diseases. As we approach medical problems, there's 2 ways we look at it, and some of my colleagues are here in the audience. We look at it as severity. In other words, even though something might not be common, if it has severe consequences for you, that's something we take very seriously. It goes high up on the list. So I think that's something to take in consideration with COVID, is that even though someone might not be sick, we don't know the long-term consequences of this. We have no idea. This has only been around for about a year and a half now. So we don't know what the consequences are going to be in 5 or 10 years. And the perfect example of that is smoking. When I was growing up, everybody smoked. My parents smoked, everybody in the community smoked. People smoked in restaurants, of course, in airplanes, buses, schools, in the cafeteria, whatever. And the issue is, we didn't know the issue of secondhand smoke till about 10 or 20 years ago. And now we know the devastating effects of secondhand smoke. So to say that this disease is not critical, we don't know that. We won't know that for 10 or 20 years. So I think that behooves us as medical professionals, and that's how I'm addressing this. I'm not an administrator, and I'm just saying how we look at it, is that we're taking the worst case scenario, saying that we feel that we know that there's dire consequences now, and we want to ensure to protect the community in the future is to do the safest measures that we know of now. And the safest measures are 3 things. Hand washing with an alcohol-based soap or liquid. Number 2 is masks, because what masks do is they prevent the transmission of the virus, because most of the viral load is in your nose and some in the back of your throat. So that's what masks do. And you know the effectiveness of masks because basically the flu didn't exist last year. I mean, I don't think we had 1 recorded case. We may have 2 recorded cases of influenza A. We had no recorded cases of influenza B, which is unheard of in this county and other counties. And that's all because of mask wearing. People were much more vigilant about wearing masks last year, and now we're getting away from that. The second documentation of that is RSV. RSV is a very common viral pathogen that affects kids as well as adults, and RSV was significantly decreased last year, and now it's coming back. And it's actually a very bad problem for adults also, because we're measuring it and we're looking at that. And that's a function of decreased mask wearing in St. John, but also in other counties. So mask wearing is imperative. As was mentioned by several individuals earlier, there is no data to suggest there are detrimental outcomes from wearing masks. Masks prevent the transmission of the viruses out of the mask, and it prevents you, when you're close to somebody, of accepting the viral particles into your body. That's the point of masks. And you have to wear a mask that has 2 layers, and a mask that you don't want a vented mask, and you don't want masks or coverings where your secretions can go around the mask, because that defeats the purpose of it. So that's the point of masks. Masks provide a great barrier for the transmission of viral particles. And I talked about hand washing. I'm not going to address vaccination because that's not really the topic I think that everyone wants to hear about tonight. We have obligations in the medical community for vaccination before kids come into kindergarten. You have to be vaccinated against certain diseases, and that's just a given. You can't go to college in the United States without getting your meningococcal vaccine. You just can't, and that's just the way it is. So when we come to the issue of vaccination, I think we're going to have a similar discussion as individuals are bringing up tonight. So really, in conclusion, I just wanted to say that this is a serious problem. which is ongoing. We don't know the long-term consequences of the virus, and I think that's the critical thing. So as we approach it as medical professionals, we want to look at the safety of the individuals, our patients, and our patients' families and our community. That's why we recommend the conservative approach of mask wearing, aggressive hand washing, and vaccination as preventive measures for getting the virus and also transmitting the virus. And those are the comments I thought that would be relevant to the committee.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, sir, I'm sorry. Would anybody be opposed, this is on me, if we took like a 3-minute break? We're going to take a 3-minute break. And I'll be right back.
That was convenient.
Appreciated. Next on the agenda is the mask mandate. Dr. Fleet, Dr. Taylor, do you have anything to go over?
I was asked to put together some data based on the information that we have, both from Mrs. Lytle internally and shared with the health department. So these next couple slides are just information based on that data. And I also provided you with a handout because I knew this was going to be a little small. Mrs. Otto is going to chime in if I misspeak because she worked diligently with me trying to get this together in a comprehensible way. It's sometimes, well, a lot of times, data is overwhelming, and when we get to slides 3 and 4, or 4 and 5, you might have to take a step back. So, just to give you some background information, the first page talks about the 2021 school year and the 21-22 school year. In August of last year, we had 6 attendance days. This year, we had 7. In September last year, we had 20 attendance days. So far in September this year, we've had 13. Last year, face coverings were required the entire school year. Masks were approved at the state level as a mitigation measure for quarantine purposes on November 12, 2021. Local schools and the St. Genevieve County Health Department implemented an essential learners guidelines. Plexiglass barriers, face coverings, masks, and face shields were approved as mitigation measures for quarantine purposes at the local level. For 21-22, we began the school year with face covering strongly recommended, which was in effect for 9 attendance days. The Board of Education voted to switch the face covering requirement beginning September 7th, and we've had 11 attendance days under this updated requirement. Some variables that may impact the data. I don't want anybody to think I'm trying to manipulate data or give you an impression of what it should say. I am simply trying to present it. So here are a couple variables. There may be others that are present as well that I didn't include here, but these were the main ones that we came up with. Vaccine availability. Vaccines were approved by the FDA under emergency use authorization in December of 2020. Distribution of vaccines began January 2021. Phase 1B Tier 3 educators opens March 15th, 2021, and that's when educators could begin to become vaccinated. Phase 3, remaining unvaccinated 16 plus, opens April 9th, 2021, and the FDA expands approval for Pfizer vaccine to 12 plus on May 10th, 2021. So vaccine availability wasn't as high last year as it was this year. Testing as well, the number of people tested may be different from last year to this year. I don't have any data on how many people were tested last year versus this year. So that could be a variable that's impacting the data as well. And then variant emergence could also be impacting the data as it seems to be impacting the younger people. If we look at the first graph is COVID positive cases by month for both the 2020-2021 school year and the current school year. In August of 2020, there were 2 cases, September 8, October 39, November 60, dropped to 20 for the next 2 months, 1, 9, 2, and 4. So far this year, in August, we had 20 positive cases. In August, in September, we had 49 positive cases.
Are these school cases, or are these?
These are cases at school, yes. We have a shared, let me give you a little background info. Mrs. Lytle, when all of this started a Google spreadsheet because she thought it would be a good idea, and it turned out to be a great idea, to keep track of this information on a school level. We then got with the health department, got with the other schools in our community, talked about how to best keep track of this and manage it because it's overwhelming. We created a shared Google spreadsheet with the St. Genevieve County Health Department, and at that point started collecting data. That sheet got adjusted this year and really became better able to be analyzed this year because we looked at how it was structured and we modified it a little bit in order to collect the appropriate data. And even this week we went back and added a column on there because we wanted additional data. We wanted to tell us a little more. So the collection of that data is really, really important. But for the first 3 months last year, we relied on Mrs. Lytle's spreadsheet to give us that information. Then we started sharing it with the St. Genevieve County Health Department, and we were able to gather more in-depth data, which you'll see on some upcoming slides. Okay, so that's the data collection method. Mrs. Lytle gets in there and enters information. St. Genevieve County Health Department gets in there and their personnel enters information. We try to stay out of it. There's a student employee column, which we've added recently, that we've been going in and adding because the formulas that are created in the Excel spreadsheet read that column and tell us whether it's student, whether it's employee, or whether it's other. Okay, so that's background on the information and how we gathered it. Any questions about the COVID positive cases by month slide? Also, I threw in there a vertical bar to indicate when the masks were allowed as a mitigating measure. So that's not an accurate placement of that bar. It was November 12th. I had to throw it in there in November somewhere. And that November number for last year is a stagnant number for the entire month of November. So trying to put it on November 12th was rather difficult. So I tried to put it in the same spot on each slide.
What that means is when masks were allowed as a mitigating measure from the state level, that said in the local schools, health department, and at the local level as well, that means that we would do, contact tracing, if there are masks involved, for both people, do everything correctly, then they wouldn't have to, so that's what that means.
School quarantines by month. So it's the exact same slide setup, but we switched from COVID positive cases to school quarantine cases. For 2020, starting in August, 4187 jumps to 258, 289 in November, drops to 87, 88, 16, 30 in March, 13 in April, and 22 in May. This school year, in August, 113, and in September, 183. This is not cumulative information. These quarantine numbers represent community, school, and other categories. The quarantine numbers also include positive individuals. In 2021, the total quarantines August to September grew by 112%, 41 to 87. In 2021, the total quarantines from September to October grew 197%, 87 to 258. In the year 2021-2022, the total quarantines grew by 62% from August to September, 113 to 183. And If I hit the button, I think that vertical line will come in to indicate when the mitigating mask measure was put in place.
We need to just let Dr. Taylor make his presentation. Do you have an answer?
To clarify the vertical line, that is when masks went in place as a mitigating measure. Before that, they were not considered for quarantine purposes, if I'm right. Is that right, Bailey?
Is that the answer to the question? Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Next slide is cumulative quarantine data. And before anybody tries to read it, I'm going to move on to the following slide quickly because I've changed the scale on the y-axis. So this is really, really hard to read. So I changed the scale on the y-axis and got to this, which is a little easier to read. This adds total monthly numbers together to provide an overall view. 2021, 2022 school contact quarantines. In August, we had 42 in the 7 school days. Am I right? That's supposed to go somewhere else. So if we look at the green color represents the 2020-2021 school year. The dashed line is COVID positives. The solid line is total quarantines. In red, the dashed lines represent the 2021-2022 school year for COVID positives, and the solid line represents quarantines for the 2021-2022 school year. And this is just cumulative data from the first 2 graphs. Any questions about that?
That's just the first 2 graphs put together.
Yeah, it's cumulative. So instead of just getting a stagnant number, this is how many we had in August, this is how many we had in September, it adds them up.
Okay.
Okay, now we have quarantine categories by month in 2020, 2021 only. I've separated these into school quarantines, which is in the bright neon green, into community quarantines, which is in the dark green, and other, which is the purple categories. As you can see, last year, the first 3 months, we do not have school or community quarantines because that's that data we pulled from Mrs. Lytle's spreadsheet. We then transitioned in November to the shared spreadsheet, and that allowed us to get that quarantine location data. And what that data means is if it says school, that is a quarantine that occurred in a school setting. If it's community, that's outside of the school setting, and if it's other, it's unknown or wasn't checked. And just like anything, the more you have to enter data and look at data, you figure out better ways to do it, and more adding a little piece here or there will allow you to look at it a little differently. This next slide, any questions about that slide? This next slide is cumulative data. So those are just totals from the prior slide with the school district in there as the green line with the same numbers from the prior slide. And this is the same information from this school year. We have school quarantines in bright green, community quarantines in dark green, and other or not applicable in purple. August total, we have 113. September total, we have 181. The face covering requirement came into effect on September 7th. August, so all of the number 113 for August came in 7 days. In September, we've had 13 days up to this point. And I think I'm going to jump to this slide. So, to get a little better picture of the data, in the 2021-2022 school year, with quarantine analysis, in August, face coverings were strongly recommended. We had 7 student attendance days, 42 total school contact quarantines, which is about 6 quarantines a day. If we move to September, we had 13 total student attendance days. Face coverings were strongly recommended for 2 of those days. If you look at that calendar for September, September 1st is a Wednesday, and then September 2nd is a Thursday. We were off Friday and Monday. The Board of Education met on that Friday, implemented a face covering requirement at that point. So we only had 2 days in September where face coverings were strongly recommended. We had 11 days in September where face coverings were required. Up to Tuesday, September 7th, which was 2 student attendance days in September, we had 21 total school contact quarantines, which is 10.5 quarantines a day. Beginning Tuesday, September 7th through today, which is 11 student attendance days, we had 26 total school contact quarantines, which is 2.4 quarantines a day. And then this is that same information from the prior slide, just totaled up. 113 total quarantines in August and 183 total quarantines in September. I know that's a lot of information. Any questions about that?
So the implication there being, one of the implications, particularly on the one slide where it compares the pre and post mask or face covering strongly recommended versus the mandate, we went, again, not necessarily preventing COVID cases as was mentioned tonight at home, but we went from 10.5 quarantines per day to 2.4.
That's in 2 student attendance days. The health department does work on Friday, so they input some data on Friday as well. They may even work Saturdays now.
So we had 6 per day on the days that we came to school in August. And then it went to 10.5. I know that was just 2 days. And then it went down to 2.4.
Correct. So far in September, that's 11 student attendance days that we've had. We've got 7 left in September.
So I know, I'm sure others have questions. I'm going to start. Just a couple questions. One thing brought up this evening was, and I would be upset about this also, that students could get upset or fatigued wearing a mask for 5 to 7 hours, and I agree with that statement. Is that happening?
To my knowledge, no. You know, I want to say something before I go on. I just want you all to listen. I'm not for mask. I'm not against mask. I am about finding ways to keep kids in school. And I know Gina Bryant brought up what Perryville and Jefferson County and St. Francis County, who made the announcement, is going to. I am talking to those people. I've talked to our county health department. I'm not against trying some of that, but I want to do it with caution. Perryville ended up having to hire 2 RNs to be COVID trackers. And that's great. We have the ESSER funds, we can do that. But I'm telling you, we're just not there in St. John County yet. I have talked to our county health department. We had a CDC call that we participated in yesterday. We had a DHSS call that we participated in today. I want you to know we're talking about it. I just need you to be a little patient while I figure it out. And that's all I'm asking. You know, as an employee of this district for a long time, teacher, building principal, district level, I've lost kids. I've watched kids commit suicide. I've watched kids die in car accidents. My sons lost their best friend to a farming accident. You know, I suffer. I don't want to see that happen to any of our children anymore. So I'm asking you to give me a little bit of time to work with our county health department, to work with the other counties, and we'll try to figure out if there is an alternative. So that's my ask. As far as kids being in masks 5, 6, 7 hours a day, I'm going to say no. I know I get a lot of questions about kindergarten, first graders. We have them wear them in the gym or the cafeteria in the morning because it's not socially distanced. When they're in the hallway, they wear them. But when they're in the classroom, we have plexiglass. Bloomsdale Elementary, everywhere, and in the cafeteria, they are socially distanced at lunch or behind plexiglass. St. John Elementary, it's in the classrooms, it's in the specials. We're just trying to figure out the cafeteria now, which is a little bit more complicated because we can't get them 6 feet apart, which is the measure that our county uses. I know other counties use 3. Middle school, high school may be a little bit more difficult because we do have classes with 25, 27, 28. But I don't know if either one of them want to share the experience of kids in your buildings. Are they wearing them 5, 6, 7 hours a day?
No, in most cases not. We don't require them to wear them in PE. We don't require them to wear them when they're outside moving between buildings if they have classes in other locations. We don't require them to wear them while they're eating, of course, at lunch. And most of our advisory classes are small enough they don't have to wear them there. Many of our regular classes in course and in our electives are small enough that they don't have to wear them there. If I found out that a student was wearing them 7 hours a day, I'd be surprised. And in fact, in faculty meetings and in my weekly communications to teachers, I encourage them to find ways to give kids breaks. And as far as I know, they are.
Thank you, Dr. Mercer.
And I would echo that in the high school as well. I know that a lot of our teachers have spent time getting outside, going to the library, where they can space students out a little bit more, and just getting creative with spaces, giving students opportunities to go to the drinking fountain. We're lucky in the sense that a lot of our classes, and going through and having to look at just different contact tracing situations, I've gone through it and looked at our classes, and we have several classes that are small enough where they can socially distance. I've encouraged our teachers to look at the format that they have laid out in the classrooms to be able to give kids time and opportunities to have mask downtime or to not have to wear a mask at all for the 50 minutes that they're in that class. Is there a possibility that the stars could completely align and a student could be in a classroom of 27, 28 kids all day? It's a possibility, but I find that pretty hard to believe that that's there the entire day. And then also, as Dr. Mercer alluded to, our PE classes, we have at the freshman level, all of our students participate in physical education, so that's 1 hour there. And then we also have team sports body conditioning, and they're not using masks in those locations either. So like I said, I would be very surprised if the student is wearing a mask 5, 6, 7 hours a day. But their schedule would just have to align just perfectly for that to happen.
And I would assume we would want to hear from those kids to talk them through some options.
And we've done that with kids, right, who may have social or emotional issues. Talk them through some problems.
With some options, yes. face shields work with some kids. There is an alternative that Miss Christy Cleghorn found. It sits like on the glasses, like my glasses or your glasses, and it hangs below the eyes. We have a few kids with some visual issues, and that seems to work for them. Plus, it's, you know, it's not against your face as tight as a mask would be.
Anybody else have some questions?
Good evening. I might just add a few comments tonight. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Fleeg and Dr. Taylor and the board and everybody that came tonight. Everybody's here because they're concerned. Everybody wants to do what's best for our kids. So in my own mind, in an effort to clarify, you know, how I felt about the mask mandate, and being a board member especially, and an educator for many years, I have spent quite a few hours in all 4 buildings. I toured around, I talked to kids, I talked to administrators, I talked to teachers, and I have to say that I came away with a clarification and a viewpoint that was probably a little bit different than when I walked through the door. I'm very, very proud of our teachers and want to say thank you to both the admin and the teachers for the creativity that I saw going on that perhaps I hadn't anticipated. At both of the elementaries, almost every single room has plexiglass up, and kids have the option, if they want to take off their masks. A lot of the kids leave their masks on because that's what they do. That maybe their families ask them to, or maybe they feel more comfortable, but they have the option to take their masks off. And so there were times, many times, in many rooms that I walked in that the teacher was teaching. I kind of tried to be a fly on the wall. The teacher was teaching, or they were doing some independent work, and when they were in their little quadrant of clear plexiglass, they weren't masked. So I just kind of expected to walk in and see everybody with a mask on all day long, but I did indeed end up seeing many, many children without masks on in many rooms, and that was encouraging to me. At the high school especially, there were a lot of small classes, and the kids were really spread out, so they weren't masked. When I took some notes, hang on. One thing that I kind of liked, they didn't even have to be working quietly. Like they were even talking. You know, they were in their plexiglass little quadrant, but they were still able to see each other and share expressions and smiles and talking. That was encouraging to me. I also noticed that, is it perfect? No, absolutely not. It's not perfect. And I'm glad that Dr. Fleeg mentioned that maybe just a little bit more time to look at what other counties are doing, times for us to keep exploring, because I think at the end of the day, no one in this room wants kids to wear masks indefinitely, or even maybe more than for a few months, and in the most limited of situations that they can. So our teachers are really keeping kids socially distanced. Observed PE in both buildings, all 3 buildings. Nobody had a mask on. Observed lunch in all 4 buildings. Nobody was masked. They were walking in the halls with their masks on and on the rugs with their masks on, but it was not for long periods of time. And then, of course, I asked myself these questions. Well, if you're only going to wear a mask some of the time, is it effective? Is it even effective? That's a question I don't know the answer to. But it's when they were really close to each other, they still were wearing their masks, which I felt like they were following what they were asked. So I came away feeling like a district that had a mask mandate when I walked in the door. But when I walked out of the doors, I felt like we were a district that, at least right now today, has some kind of hybrid model that has masking when we can't be socially distant. That sits a little better in my soul for some reason. I do wish that we didn't have masks at all, and that is my hope and goal as a board member, to keep working with the team to do. But I must say that I feel like that is, I just left encouraged and feeling pretty good. And I think now that fall is here, we need to get those windows open. Ventilation is one of the leading mitigating measures every research study you read. So I will say I didn't see any open windows, and that would be a suggestion I have. Maybe we could go there.
We have a fresh air intake on all of our HVAC systems.
Okay.
And we have it maxed out at 25%.
Okay.
So there's 25% fresh air being pulled into each classroom.
Good to know. Good to know. And then another question I had was, like many of our patrons said tonight, that we keep looking at how we are quarantining kids, because a lot of the kids that are at home right now don't necessarily have COVID or won't get COVID, and I think that's something that, in my opinion, we need to keep looking at as well.
Definitely. That's my plea. Give me a little bit more time to talk to those surrounding counties and figure it out.
I understand. I agree. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Okay. I wasn't able to get into the classrooms, but I have talked to, I did make it, so I've talked to like a total of 43 kids, high school, middle, and grade school, Bloomsdale. And just kind of talking about how do you feel about the mask or whatever. I had one little girl that said, well, I don't like it, but my mom said I had to wear it. And then I had a couple, the high school kids didn't have a bad word from them. Middle school was basically the same. Grade school, I really didn't have a lot. I had one that was against it, but the rest of them said that I asked, I said, well, do you sit with kids? Do you get to take your mask off? Do you get to, when you go eat, do you have to wear them when you walk in the halls? And they told me that and that's basically what they said. When they walked in the halls, and there's some classrooms that they were in that they may not be able to actually, they have to sit farther apart. And but not any of them said that they had to wear them all day long. Not any of them, because I said, can you take them off in the classrooms? Can you do whatever? And they all said that they could take them. So I came away saying that they didn't have to wear the mask all day long. Now, one other thing that I would like to if we have kids that, and then maybe, the administrators could not answer, but check it out, talk to their teachers. Do you have, or is there something, if there are kids that are just definitely frightened from wearing these masks, or just can't stand them? I mean, there are people out there, even adults, that just have that fear or just can't stand them. Is there something that we can do that's not putting, how do I want to put that, where it's making it look like they're, oh, well, you know what, they can't wear a mask. I don't want any kid, and that's what when I talk to the older ones, I said, you don't poke fun of the kids that don't have to wear them. You do know that. And every one of them said, no, they don't do that. Of course not. They could be telling me that or whatever, but they said, I just said, is there any way that you could make sure that these kids are not put away from the rest of the classroom, maybe distance them a little more, but don't make them feel like it's their fault that they don't want to wear these masks. If there's something that you guys could do to help those kids. I mean, that's something you could look at, you could talk to the teachers about that and see if there's anything that you could do to help them. Do I like the mask? Absolutely not. I don't hate anything, but I definitely don't like masks. I was going to say hate, but anyway, I don't. I don't like them, and I have to wear them, and it's not whether I want to or not, and I'm constantly going like this. But when nobody's around. But I just thought if we could do something for those kids and help those kids out, that, you know, what happened in the last year and a half was not any school district's fault. Not any school district. And like Dr. Fleeg was talking, I've talked to 5 different school districts, and they're all surrounding areas. And they're all in the same place. They've got the same people, the same thing, the same questions, the same everything. So it's not just us. And I just feel that our administration has been under a lot. And to come under fire and to be, and I don't want to say anything, I don't want to argue. I can't stand the arguing about any of this with anybody. It's anybody's opinion. But our job is to keep those kids safe. And I know I've been on here for a long time. And probably many of you are probably saying it'd be my last 2 years because you're not going to vote for me, but I don't care. I want you to know, all the years that I've been on here, not anybody ever came and protested how against the county or the city, how good we are, what good we've done for our kids. You know, when I sit on the MSBA board, and when I go to those meetings, I would always go up there and sit thinking, oh my gosh, I wish we could be like, I wish we could do stuff like this. Do you know now, when I go to those meetings, those people come to me and ask, what are we doing? How are we doing it? And I can't say enough about our administrators, our superintendent, our assistant superintendent. Are we all perfect? Absolutely not. But there is not one up here, not one board member that I have ever served with that has not had those kids as their first interest. Now, maybe some of you don't believe it, and I can't make you feel that way. But I know how I feel. I don't want those kids to have to wear them all year long. If there's a way we can end it, that's what I want to do. But if you could give us some time to find out what we're doing or what we can do, then I think we could all work together. We've got to work together. We cannot work against each other.
I can share that one of the options that they've done at St. John and Bloomsdale Elementary is to purchase a face shield for every student that is kept in the classroom. So, you know, if a child doesn't want to wear a mask or, you know, needs an alternative, they can definitely pick up their face shield and put it on. If they're going into the hallway or to, you know, a place where they need it, it's an option that they can use. The other part, you know, is the plexiglass, you know, putting it on the tables and dividing out the space so they can see, as, you know, Mrs. Diesel was describing, they can interact, they can see facial expression. And so those are some of the things we are doing.
And I kind of inadvertently left out, the middle school has a lot of plexiglass too, Dr. Mercer. And they were really utilizing it, especially upstairs, I noticed. So, yeah, I left the middle school out, sorry about that.
Yes.
They're using it too.
I know we've, you know, called this a mask mandate, but we obviously use face shields as a mitigating measure too. It's our own version. It also addresses some of the problems I've heard tonight about seeing smiles, seeing teachers' mouths move, foreign language, things of that nature. So I didn't know, I mean, we've been doing that. Could we maybe incorporate that into the motion this evening?
Yes.
Other questions for Dr. Fleeg, Dr. Taylor, or statements?
I guess the last thing I'll say, when I say give me more time, if we need to do another special board meeting, I'm assuming that we'll find a time to do it. If it's 2 weeks from now, if it's earlier than our next board meeting, I'm saying. So that's part of, you know, give me a little bit more time as soon as it's figured out.
But we want to see what happens at these other
Correct.
districts. Okay.
Yes.
Well, we've agreed to look at this every meeting minimally.
Yes.
So I think we want to keep doing that. Okay. It's, I know no one's made a motion yet, and that'll be up to the board, but it's very late, and I just want to thank our teachers and staff. This is another tough year, so thank you very much for what you do. And I want to thank everyone here tonight. I apologize if you thought that I cut you off. I'm just trying to lead a meeting and follow parliamentary procedure. If you have additional questions, feel free to email them to me. So I will probably forward them on to administration. They have a lot more information than I have. And thank you all for coming and staying. Any other questions or comments? As long as would everybody be, if they're in favor, would you be in favor of using face coverings instead of masks?
Use that
I'll,
word, use that word instead of mask.
I'll make a motion to approve continuation of face coverings for all students, employees, and visitors on the campuses of the St. Genevieve County R2 School District during school hours. I further move that the decision be reevaluated and voted upon at the next regular open session meeting, which is scheduled to take place on Tuesday, October 19th, 2021, or earlier if needed.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue a face covering mandate for all students, employees, and visitors on the campuses through the next board meeting, or meet earlier if needed. Any other comment? I'll take a roll call vote. David Bova, yes. Eric Bosler?
Yes.
Geraldine Diesel?
Yes.
James Kirschner?
Yes.
Martha Riesinger?
Yes.
Richard Rudloff?
Yes.
Terrence McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have new business adult food service prices.
Yes. So just like our student prices, we are required to increase the adult prices by 10 cents. So that would take our breakfast prices for adults to $1.85 and our lunch prices to $3.30. So that is my recommendation, that we approve this and get it in our books for our food service director.
I'll move to approve the adult food service prices for the 2021-22 school year presented.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have support staff summative evaluation.
Yes. We have had the same evaluation since 2000, the year 2000. So that's been quite a long time. So it is definitely time to update it. I put an old copy of the evaluation in, and I put a copy of the proposal in for you too. What you'll see if you compare the two is we updated the wording. Some of it was old. Old's probably not the right word. Well, it's old. So it just kind of cleaned up the wording, made it a little bit more modern in its look. And some of the categories were the same, so this combined those same categories into one item. I worked on, the admin team began the work this summer. We worked on it throughout the summer. I sent it to all support staff members for feedback. I sent it to our NEA ESP group for the leaders in that group to look at, and no one they had a few suggested changes which are in the document, but they're all in support of updating the support staff evaluation tool.
evaluation form.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the assessment plan and updated testing schedule.
Hello again. The assessment plan had some minor updates to it this year. Beginning on page 6 through page 8, we list all of the assessments that we take as a district. The only thing that was added was the NWEA MAP growth tests in reading, language, math, and science. We began this kind of as a pilot project in a couple different areas, and I think really the more teachers started talking to one another about some of the data that they were getting back, the more excited they got about it. And I had other subject areas coming and other buildings coming and asking, can we add this? Can we add this? This data follows students, so a student moving from one grade level to the other, the teacher the following year can see it immediately. We don't have to wait on results, it's there. I even had a teacher at a non-testing level want to know what their students in their classes scored the year before on the testing. These students aren't going to be tested at the state level again. But this teacher said, hey, well, if that data is there, let me look at it, see where my kids are and what they learned last year and where they need to focus. So the NWEA test has just been a fantastic addition. The reports give us a lot of information and really real-time information. That's the test that is given through year, so it's given 3 times a year. It's not a one and done like our state test. Like I said, it's real time. That data comes back and the teachers can dig into it and begin evaluation. Some of the reports group students according to ability. You can group students according to different abilities. There's just a lot to offer from the NWEA test. That was the major addition here. Also, we've been notified a couple weeks ago that we've been selected for the NAEP test. I think that's at the 8th grade level. Is that right, Dr. Mercer?
Yes, sir. Yes.
That's the National Assessment of Educational Progress. And the information I have says math or reading, so we're not sure yet. They're going to notify us sometime between January and March. And it's a kind of a random selection of 50 or less students that are going to be taking that. And that'll be added to the national data to produce the results for that organization. So I would ask that you approve the assessment plan as presented.
Dr. Taylor, I have a quick question. Mrs. Gegg, you might be able to answer this. Does any new assessments that they have to do with the phonics program kind of roll into the dyslexia testing? Yeah, I thought so. Just checking.
And they are more efficient and not
Good.
Move to approve the assessment plan and update testing schedule for the 2021-22 year.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Last and certainly not least, on the open agenda, we have the amended budget.
Yes, if I can get back here. There we go. All right, you all had access, and it's actually in the public documents, a copy of the amended budget. I've also brought, because we forgot to bring it to you in June, the end of the year principal reports from 2021. Sorry, principals. They have a hard deadline in early June, which is very difficult to meet, and then here I forget to give it to them. So I apologize. I'll fix that. Amended budget. So our basic, philosophy is to be conservative on revenue projections, to try to be as accurate as possible on projected expenses. And I usually build in about $220,000, $250, somewhere in that range of contingency funds. In a budget, because this is like a $30 million budget, so that's a very small amount, but it's good to have that little cushion because roofing projects come up. For example, the roofing project that's currently going on that is still not completed from the summer, they found an issue, so we're waiting to see what the fix is and how much it costs. So, we're going to have to figure that one out. But this budget continues to meet the needs, services, and programs of our students and to be fiscally responsible to our patrons. The goals, those are in the book, and you see the goals that we accomplished last year with our budget in the end of the year principal reports that you have. In this amended budget book, you will see a summary of adjustments and additions, salary schedules, a 3-year comparison of revenue and expenses, the fiscal 22 amended budget revenues and expenses, our debt service payment schedule, and a summary page of where we think the budget is going to end at the end of the year. This budget does anticipate spending down funds right now, about $343,000. There is a large transfer from Fund 1 to Fund 2, but that is a direct result of how we set the tax rate with the uncertainty of Wholesome. There is a transfer from Fund 1 to Fund 4, which will cover the capital outlay projects that we currently have going on and some that we are going to discuss in the future. This budget does not take into account the COVID-19 related expenses that we've all of a sudden had to deal with at the beginning of the year here with the plexiglass and the face shields. I am gathering those into a folder and hoping when we amend our ESSER 3 budget to put all of those expenses into those federal funds. This budget does have the projected revenues for ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, but it does not have the projected expenses yet because the budgets are not approved, and I can't put the expenses in until the budget is approved at the state level. They did send it back. They wanted to know if we'd updated our discipline policy, which there was an update last year, but it was due to the Title IX compliance requirements updating. So I have put that information in and resubmitted it today. This budget meets all the requirements for the school district. It meets the requirements of our auditors and the state. And the last thing I would like to do before you move and act on the budget and ask questions is I'd like to thank our building principals. They have worked with me for 4 years now, trying different ways, trying to figure out the best way that works, and they're always very flexible, and I hope this process is probably the easiest one we've ever gone through. The building secretaries, again, they're always going with my ideas. Directors, supervisors, Dr. Green, Chrissy Gettinger, our new finance coordinator, is getting her feet under her. Megan Donovan, Carrie Foff, Crystal Roth, Brittany Geck, and Dr. Taylor. So, does anyone have any questions for me?
Just for people's, or for your information, the board gets the board packet, the board gets the packet a week in advance, well, almost a week in advance. And so we look this over, and if we have any questions, then we can call Dr. Fleeg or whatever the questions may be in for our board meeting. If it's principals or whatever, we're able to ask them. So I don't want you to think that we're just sitting up here going through that, because it takes a lot of time to go through that.
Yes, and like I said, it's available on board docs for the public to see too.
And I'd reiterate, I think I do this every year, that even though this is a $343,000
projection right now.
Projection in to overspend revenues last year was $900,000 approximately, and we came back in the black at the end of the year.
Yes, they fully funded the state formula, the classroom trust fund, and the Prop C. So I have every intention at this, every thought process at this point that this is going to come out in the black. But right now it is a deficit because there's some more work to be done.
This whole amended budget's on board docs for the public, right?
Do what?
This is the whole thing's on board docs for the public?
Yes.
And thank you all for this. I know, you might not think, but I know I read through it. I'm pretty sure Terry does.
I do too.
If you don't know, I'm sorry, I'm lengthening this meeting even more. This is a list of all that was accomplished during the last school year. So, yes, with your tax dollars. So thank you very much. And ours. Total revenue? Total budget?
Total expenses, total revenues, because they're actually two different things.
I guess revenues.
Okay. They're on your summary page.
Yeah, revenues,
Yes.
$30,991,000. Expenditures, $31,335,000.
Yes. Yes, and all of that's on the summary page with the collection rate for the taxes and everything.
All right. Anybody got any other questions? I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the amended budget for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have adjourned to executive closed session. Mr. Mack.
Under revised Missouri statute 610.021, I vote that the Board of Education adjourn to a closed meeting with a closed record and closed vote after a short break for the purpose of discussing and voting upon the following items of business: hiring, firing, dismissing, or promoting of a particular employee, and scholastic probation, expulsion, or graduation of identifiable individuals.
Second.
Roll call. Eric, you did second?
Yes.
Roll call, David Bova,
Yes.
Eric Balkin,
Yes.
Carol Diesel. Yes. James Kirkner. Yes. Arthur Reesinger. Yes. Richard Rudolph.
Yes.
Eric McDaniel, yes. Motion carried, 7-0.
9:55.